about 80 hectares. The palace
It's the history of the Domus Aurea,
huge area
Nero's
from the
golden
Gardens
house.
of Maecenas, near the current Via Menolana, down towards the Oppian Hill and towards what is now Via Cavour, occupying the valley of the Colosseum and the Velian Hill that it faced, and incorporating a good part of the Palatine and Syrian Hill, and lastly the Esquiline Gardens near the ancient city walls. It was an expanse that was inconceivable for a private residence, covering almost entirely 3 of Rome's 7 hills. It was a sort of city within a city. Based on the model of the palaces of the Hellenistic rulers, the Domus consisted of residential buildings and leisure facilities, libraries, thermal baths, roads, and vast gardens. In the middle of the complex, and in the place which would be later occupied by the Colosseum, was a large artificial lake where a giant gilded bronze statue stood representing the sun god with the emperor's likeness. The Oppian Hill Pavilion, which you are about to enter, is now commonly identified as the Domus Aurea and was probably used for summer ozia or recreation and was but a small part of the whole. Spaces which today are underground would have been flooded by external light, and indeed the name Aurea probably alludes to the innovative way of harnessing natural light devised by the architects Severus and Sella. The architecture was designed in such a way that the sun's rays would penetrate the rooms with oblique light, striking the vaults painted by the master Fabollo and decorated with gold leaf and embedded with precious gems and molten glass, making them sparkle. The pavilion was centered on an original series of rooms around the octagonal room, which was a spectacular scenic contraption where light, water, and perspective seemed to come together. The damnatio memoriae that was assigned to the figure of Nero was also extended to his palace. Gradually, the area of its pavilions was given back to the people, and new public buildings were constructed. The Domus Aurea was buried and forgotten. Part of the Oppian Hill Pavilion was incorporated in the foundation of the Baths of Trajan, and was thus miraculously saved by the layers of earth that filled it. The first people to rediscover the painted decorations were the painters of the 15th century, who, descending from holes drilled at the top of the vaults, found what appeared to them to be wonderfully painted caves or grottos. In fact, the decorative style inspired by these paintings became known as grotesque painting. Many of these people left evidence of their visit, and even today we can read hundreds of signatures of artists and visitors engraved in the ancient walls. Much later, in the mid-18th century, the first real work to free the rooms began, and almost a century later, the structures, which had often been confused with the ruins of the Baths of Titus, were correctly identified as a part of the Domus Aurea. The story of the Domus in the 20th century continued with a series of archaeological investigations that saw the gradual freeing of a growing number of rooms. There were also events completely unrelated to archaeological issues. For example, when the site became a support area for displaced people at the end of World War II. Today, the extensive restoration project, which aims to compensate the integrity of the barrier walls by reconstructing the missing portions, to comprehend the signs of construction, preserving, for example, the holes used for the scaffolding and ribs, and to preserve the forms and colours of the ancient frescoes, must deal with the enormous difficulties regarding the conservation of the site. The Domus Aurea is, in fact, a subterranean monument crushed by the weight of the garden above and infiltrated by water and penetrated by roots. Only the completion of the recently launched project, which involves the construction of a so-called light garden that is compatible with archaeological structures and features a lighter stratum of earth and a sophisticated drainage system, will ensure the conservation and the future of such a wonderful piece of history in Rome's underground.